You're listening to Infinite TBR, the podcast where we try not to buy more books. I'm Smack.
And I'm Gabi. Spoiler alert, we're going to avoid major spoilers, and when we can, warn when we're going to discuss a particular book in detail, so you can avoid that part of the episode. You can also check the show notes for time-stamped flags identifying potential spoilers. Future Gabi here. This time not with spoilers, but with kind of a disclaimer. We made the rookie mistake of recording in front of an open window on a windy day because we live in San Diego, where it is beautiful. Why would you ever close the windows? The answer we have found out since is because you're recording a podcast. So there are a couple spots where there's some wibbly wobbliness, and we apologize for that in advance. So I think now, we might end up splitting this up into multiple episodes, but next on our to-do list is the Mysterious Galaxy Bingo Showdown tournaments. Kind of, well, we were going to do tournament style. This is actually going to end up being more, I think, PvP fights. So what we decided, we wanted to play a game where we each, as kind of like a review of our Mysterious Galaxy Bingo experiences, we have bowls here with each of our 24 Mysterious Galaxy Bingo picks.
Should
books that
we
read.
explain Mysterious Galaxy Bingo?
Sure. So this was the Mysterious Galaxy Summer Bingo, where for like 3 months during the summer, they had an adult version and a kid version, where they had squares with different themes.
One of them was like the cover had animals on it. Another square was for a translated work. Another square was for a book by two or more people.
Yes.
One square had to have a dragon on the cover. So like very like both broad and specific.
Yes.
Options.
Yeah. Like one square I think was just have a nonfic.
Yeah. A nonfiction book. Because Mysterious Galaxy specializes in speculative stuff. So, like...
most of it was, speculative fiction adjacent or related.
One of them was...
a blank of blank and blank.
Yeah, so that one you had to read a book with a title that was, like, A Girl of Fire and Thorns.
A Song of Wraiths and Ruin.
A Court of Thorns and Roses? Yeah. Okay, so one of those books. And one of them was a genre you'd never read before.
Oh yeah, that one was impossible. I think I've read at least one of every genre.
I read a memoir, like my fourth memoir of the year, and I was like, I've definitely never read a memoir before. And I finished it, and I looked at like books I'd read, and I was like, what the hell?
Dang it! I ended up reading. Oh, I went ahead and counted Trans Wizard Harriet Porter because I could honestly say I've never read anything like that before.
I ended up going with true crime.
Okay. I guess I haven't read anything true crime. I could have done that.
I just happened to have.
I think
that
I had
book
more fun
around.
reading.
Yeah, you definitely did. Mine was like, really depressing.
Okay, so we each have our little bowls of paper slips filled with our 24 titles.
Yes. We're each going to pick a title for the other person. And then we have to... What are we doing?
We're trying to convince the other that our book is better.
Yes. The title that the other person pulled is better.
The book that we read.
Right.
Like, the book I read is better than the book you read.
Which is wrong.
We'll see about that.
Just flat out wrong.
And then, so we're just gonna, kind of go forward with that and see what ends up happening. Don't know how this is gonna go. But surely we'll have fun. Either way.
This is gonna be ridiculous. Alright.
Ready? First battle?
Mix it up a little. Oh, man. Oh shit.
So the one, so Smack has to convince me that The Winter Duke
by Claire Eliza Bartlett
is better, or a better reading experience, I guess, overall. It doesn't have to be a better book, but, you know what I mean?
No, but sort of.
So, I mean, there may be, better quality books, but would you ever reread it, kind of deal? A better reading experience overall for...
Well, your title is, spoiler alert, by Olivia Dade, which... I'm sure I've said this before, but I read that on January 6th during the insurrection.
Oh, yeah.
And it was so much better than watching TV.
Yeah. I mean, not that that's a very high bar.
That was a really low bar that day, but
okay. I haven't read The Winter Duke.
You're gonna love it.
I'm really looking forward. So
there's magic marine biology in it.
I know. She also wrote We Rule the Night, which was on the Sirens list. I know.
We Rule the Night is like magic night witches, like the women pilots from World War II, who shot down German bombers in like crop dusters and shit.
But we're not talking about that.
We're not talking about that.
Nope.
We're talking. Do you want to go first?
Sure.
Okay.
I don't know what to say other because we both read this, but good fat rep.
That's true.
Mm-hmm. Also, how lovable was Marcus? Is that his name? I think his name. Something like Marcus.
I don't know. It's been 10 months.
Yeah.
Since I read it.
Her name was April.
Didn't remember that.
Well, because then we had that debate with Laura about which months are appropriate for being names.
That's funny.
Anyway.
Okay, so The Winter Duke takes place in this magical dukedom that is surrounded by kingdoms and principalities. That's what it's called.
Oh, you're doing like the full synopsis. I guess I could have done that. I'll do that after you're done.
Okay.
Continue.
Okay. Well, because you don't know what it's about.
I don't. Well,
so you've sort of know what it's about. Okay. So the main character, whose name I have forgotten.
Sure. That's how a lot of this is going to go because it's been a few months since
I read it
all of these.
In June. So it's been a while. Okay, so
based on lingering impressions.
Yes. She is the middle child of the Duke. And she's a marine biologist, basically.
Okay, you win. Sorry, guys. Smack wins this time.
And the Winter Duke, their dukedom exists on top of a perpetually frozen lake.
Right.
And the bottom underneath the ice is this magical mermaid kingdom.
Yep, you win.
And
we don't have to talk about this anymore. You win.
But this is good. It's
Okay.
The important part of the book is that her parents and all of her siblings, older and younger, fall under this like sleeping curse that they're slowly wasting away from, and so she ends up as the Duke, and she doesn't want to be the Duke. She's really bad at it. She's like really bad at it, and the stakes are so high, and she just doesn't care, and she's so shit at it.
I love this.
And
is it in like a self-hating way? Because that's kind of how. So that was actually my gripe with A Song of Wraiths and Ruin, is the main character ends up the queen, but she's so full of self-loathing the whole book that I got.
This
that
girl
bore me
is
out of
so
it.
selfish. She hates being Duke.
Okay. So she acknowledges that she's bad at it, but like in a...
But in
not
a like,
in a
yeah,
self-
that's why
yeah.
I shouldn't be in charge.
Yeah, okay.
Spoiler alert.
Oh, gosh.
This is the important part.
No, you can't. If I'm going to read it, you can't spoil it. You already won.
So good.
Well, pin it for next time. You
So
cannot
good.
spoil things for me.
I won't spoil it for you. Goddamn. You guys should all buy this book. I make no money from this endorsement, but it's a really important YA read for our current political climate.
Fascinating.
Yes.
Okay, well, spoiler alert is for when you're sick of our political climate and just want to read...
Spoiler alert, the title of the book.
Yeah, sorry. Spoiler alert, the book by Olivia Dade. It's not going to be confusing at all.
I know.
Is about, I'm going to call him Marcus. We're going to say his name is Marcus.
I'm pretty sure it's Marcus.
That sounds right. He's like a really famous actor who, at the time of the show, is like doing Game of Thrones, basically. He's basically Jaime Lannister.
No. Yeah? I think so.
I
always pictured him as Chris Evans, though. But it is like a...
If Chris Evans played Jaime
Right.
Lannister in Game of Thrones.
He's repeatedly described as like a big golden retriever type guy.
Yes. So he's this like famous actor, and then April is a geologist.
Which is really cool.
Mm-hmm. And
they both
write fanfic
for the show that he's on,
and very
his
pointed
is, like,
fanfic because the writing is
critical
so bad.
Fan fiction, yeah.
So it's like very like fanfic, a celebration of fanfic. Like a lot of the stuff they go into, like read the fanfiction community was like very fun to see.
Yeah.
And she's also a cosplayer, so she
Right.
does cosplay for this like Game of Thrones, whatever.
But his whole fan fiction thing is a massive secret, because if it ever came out that the star of this show was absolutely disgusted with the writing and the directing and stuff, he would never work again.
Yes. And she ends up posting her spin on one of the main female characters as, you know, a fat character, and how that should have, like, been an underlying, like, how it should have been if the writing was any good. So she posts this picture on Twitter and, you know, gets hit with the
so much hate,
predictable backlash, and then Marcus is like, something about how, like,
in his official capacity as the actor,
it's like, I would be honored to date this gorgeous woman, and just, like, trying to fight back against the trolls, which you really probably shouldn't do, because don't feed the trolls, but very, like, sweet sentiment. And so they end up going on a date.
It's super awkward,
like, as a sort of mutual, like, PR, like, like, and he honestly is like, she's gorgeous. Yeah. Would freaking love to go on a date with her if it mutually benefits us.
The one thing I think we forgot to mention is that they're really good friends online.
Yes.
But they're online friends.
They're online friends, but they don't know each other's. Right. But as of the first date, she tells him right away who she is online.
Her, like, username online.
And he's like, oh, Christ, it's first date.
I know.
He can't, because, like, for his career, cannot spill this big secret. So he's like, oh, crap.
Yeah.
And now and then there's this lie that their relationship is built on. And obviously, so, and it's that's really, like, painful, but it's done so well for one. Like, I think it addressed all of the, like, angles of this that I really like, which is, and frequently get overlooked, I think, or, like, like, at what point in the relationship is it okay to tell? And by the time...
Giant secrets,
And by the time you trust each other enough to do that, it is too late.
Right.
But you can't do it earlier because you don't trust each other. Like, it's this very unfortunate, and I live for that dynamic when it's done well. It's the whole Merlin thing. Like, the whole Merlin,
like
Arthur... Yeah, the show. Merlin, like,
okay. Nope, takes me a second.
And that whole... We were all done dirty Merlin fans, but... that revelation should have come so much sooner, and if it had been done well, because the whole thing is, by the time he should have spilled the beans much sooner in their friendship.
Right.
But also Arthur runs very hot and cold on whether they have a friendship. I wasn't sure whether
we were still talking about spoiler alert or Merlin. But
Merlin. But so that kind of dynamic is, I really like it when it's done well. I get frustrated when, like, obviously the whole point is eventually someone gets pissy because you lied to me, and isn't willing to be like, well, okay, yes, you had good professional reasons, like they kind of ended up doing in spoiler alert, was, I think
Can I tell you the one part that I really, like, has stuck with me, that I so respect, is when they're having a fight. I think it's about something else, not his big secret.
Oh, yeah, their very first. Like, because she ends up interpreting something. He says something.
Yeah, there's, like, a legitimate misunderstanding that's done well. But they're fighting, and he is, like, about to cry. But he tells himself, don't cry, that's manipulative.
Yes.
And I was just like, I love you so much.
Yeah, so they were it was fun to see adults having a very adult, well-communicated relationship.
Mature, like.
Yes. I think the only thing I didn't like about, spoiler alert, was that their dynamic was very much, he was willing to, like, do any, like, in their heads, he was very, like, I'll do anything for her, I'll give up this for her, and it was always, like, what I can do for her, and none of that going the other way, which is, like, refreshing, because usually it's the other way. Yeah, but I don't like that being so heavily one-sided regardless. So that kind of made me...
I mean, yeah, it wasn't my favorite part, but, like, that was part of them learning to communicate.
Yes.
Because, I mean, obviously, like, beyond the regular insecurity of, like, publicly dating.
Yes.
With pictures online and shit. Yep. Someone who's so well known and so known for being good looking that, like, there's the regular insecurity, but she's also had this history of boyfriends who, like, try to take her to the gym.
Yep.
Try to, like,
on her family.
Get her
there was
to
a whole
eat
misunderstanding with
salads
her family.
And, like, and so she doesn't know how to interpret some things better.
Yes.
Like, she just assumes the worst.
Which, like, fair. Honestly, yeah.
Yeah, that's where I, like, that's where I ended
What
up
are you
with
gonna
it. Like,
do?
that's fair. And they do learn to communicate. And
Yes.
they're super mature about it.
Yes.
It's so nice.
Yes.
Do you know there's this Match.com commercial where they're like, you know, first love in your 20s was great, but now you want to date like an emotionally mature human being. And I thought of spoiler alert. It's hilarious.
Awesome.
Like, it's a good commercial, but like it's better when you
Yes.
spoiler alert.
So, having read both, which would you pick? Which would you read again? If I gave you both of these and I said, you have to only reread, you have to read one of these right now.
I don't know.
Because I can tell you right now, I would pick the Winter Duke because...
I don't know, because they're so different.
Marine biologist, mermaids.
Yeah, the marine biologist.
Suckered
Like,
in.
so wow.
But I haven't read it, so...
Do you know, I think I'd read the Winter Duke.
Okay,
again.
so Winter Duke wins this round.
And we are going to talk about it after you read it, and the wonderful ending.
Ready?
Oh wait, yeah, this is your bowl. Okay. Okay.
I'll be gone in the dark.
Lycanthropy and other chronic illnesses. Didn't I say this would come up?
Yes! So, tell me about I'll Be Gone in the Dark.
Okay.
We've talked about Lycanthropy and Other Chronic Illnesses by Kristen O'Neill. It's great. Go read it.
It's hilarious. Okay, so I'll Be Gone in the Dark by Michelle
McNamara?
McNamara! It's true crime. It's about the Golden State Killer, which she actually named.
Oh, this is your true crime.
Yes, this is the genre I've never read before.
Oh, really? For
Like
real?
literally, yeah.
Right, you didn't go with the memoir.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And so it's about this killer a serial killer who started in Sacramento and absolutely terrorized Sacramento for like a year, I think. And then he moved south. And I think he killed one couple in Santa Barbara, or in Goleta, which is where we went to school. In like the 80s.
I thought you meant us, and
no.
I was like, we did not go to school in
The
Santa Barbara.
killer killed people in Goleta in the 80s. I think it was the 80s. I shouldn't quote any dates. I have no idea. And it's about this guy. I mean, like, the book itself was interesting because it was both true crime and, like, part memoir for this woman. And that made it interesting. She talked about her relationship with her mother and how her relationship with her mom changed when she had a daughter and how that kind of influenced how she looked at these murders. Mm-hmm. And I really, like, the crimes that we know he definitely committed were, like, interesting to a certain extent. But the part of the book that I found fascinating was where she outlines these petty crimes, peeping Tom, vandalism, trespassing, by this guy in Southern California, and like 5 or 10 years before the Golden State Killer moved and started killing people in Sacramento. And so she sets up this argument that isn't decided one way or another in the book, that like this peeping Tom, who was like freaking woman out and like being a crazy stalker in the middle of the night.
Red flags.
Yeah, like big red flags, but also like he killed a dog type thing. And, like, the stuff you expect to see from a serial killer before they become a serial killer. But like this guy vanished without being caught. And then a couple of years later, the Golden State Killer started killing. And so she makes this argument that they're the same guy, which I found more interesting than the actual killing, frankly. Also, it was really creepy. I was like reading at night before bed and like...
You read true crime at night before bed?
It was my first true crime book.
I didn't know. True crime? I've never read true crime, and I know not to read true crime before bed.
Okay. There's no real good excuse, but yeah, it was okay.
Okay, but was it a better reading experience than Lycanthropy?
It was 100% not.
Okay, yay, I win.
Even the horror bits in Lycanthropy and Other Chronic Illnesses, where she thinks she's going to be eaten by a werewolf, even those were better. It was fine. True crime is not my passion.
Yeah.
Where are we putting the ones that lost?
Just a second. I'll take the losers. Okay, next one. The Angel of Crows by Katherine Addison.
Legendary Cracow.
Oh, that's easy.
By Eva Basiua.
I think it's Bashura, but
Bashura?
I don't know. I couldn't
Can't
tell
read your
you.
handwriting.
Oh, wow. Shots fired.
So The Angel of the Crows is by Katherine Addison, who also wrote The Goblin Emperor.
Which is one of my all-time favorites.
Yes. It's a really good, like, gentle book. Yeah. Put that in my winning pile. And so the Angel of the Crows started as Sherlock Wingfic, which they explain it in the back of the book. Because not everybody knows. So Wingfic is fan fiction where one or more of the main characters from the canon has, like, angel wings of some sort.
Love that journey for them. Wish I had wings.
And it's a retelling of all of the best Sherlock Holmes stories. Like, there are a lot of Sherlock Holmes stories. And some of them are, like, fine. And some of them are really good. Like, A Study in Scarlet. Or The Sign of the Four. But The Sign of the Four is super racist.
Oh, really?
Super racist. There's, like, a midget with a blow dart who kills people.
Oh.
Like it's super racist. And he's either from, like, India or South Africa or something. So, like, it's bad.
Ouch.
But so Katherine Addison retells all of the best Sherlock Holmes stories in this entirely new world where angels are a thing. Yay. And so, like, John Watson is injured fighting in Afghanistan by a fallen angel.
Ooh.
Yeah. And that's why he has to come home on medical leave and blah, blah, blah. And he finds this, like, one angel who... The angels don't have names. So it's not Sherlock.
Ooh.
And we're not told Watson's first... Or no, he's not even Watson. Anyway, it's not Watson and Sherlock. And, like, the similarities are all there, and they're all based on all of the Sherlock Holmes stories, but, like, she gets rid of all the racism.
Good.
She makes the boring parts better. She, like in A Study in Scarlet, there's this whole, like, 50-page digression to Mormon, Utah.
I don't remember. It's been a really long time since I've read a Sherlock Holmes.
It's like weird and sort of interesting, but mostly pretty boring and has very like, you could do that in 10 pages or less. But it's the whole backstory for the killer. And so she just cuts all of that. It's just gone.
Great.
So, like, it's a collection, basically, of these short stories that the not Sherlock and not Watson go through. But, like, there's a couple of lines, like, subplots lines, that go through all the stories, and then there's this big, like, explosion of all the subplots at the end, and it's all very exciting, and it's real, like, if you have any interest in the Sherlock Holmes stories, if you have lots of interest, they're even better, because, like, you can follow along and, like, look at the differences between them.
I won't pick any of this out.
Yeah, but like, even if you don't know any of the Sherlock Holmes stories, they're just fun, and they're lovely, and they're super progressive.
Yay!
And they're just really nice. Oh, and I guess it's worth noting that, like, the original Sherlock Holmes stuff is all there, but, like, a lot of it is also based on the BBC Sherlock one. So, like, at the beginning of one of the short stories, when the not Watson and not Sherlock meet, when they're meeting for the first time, and Stamford, who introduces them, and is like, hey, my friend also needs a roommate, they meet, and the Sherlock angel does that, like, deduction thing, where he looks at them, and he's like, you were in Afghanistan, and you were injured by a fallen angel, and he's like, how did you know that? And then the angel is like, oh, it's just a parlor trick. Which is decidedly not what any other Sherlock...
Yes, would ever admit.
Ever, yeah. And, like, from there... all of the changes to make the angel, frankly, a better person.
Sure.
He follows the iteration of Sherlock that shows up in a couple of the canon stories, where he's, like, actually really warm and caring about the people around him, and he cares about Watson, and he's very gentle with this woman who has had a really rough go of it with her father trying to kill her. Like, there's enough, like, out of character stuff that happens in the original Sherlock Holmes stories where, like, you can pick any traits you want.
And it's still canon.
It's still canon. And so, like, Katherine Addison, like, goes out of her way to pick very specific traits for this angel. It's really well written. It's incredibly well written. I will say the only thing that I was moderately disappointed by was that I thought it was going to turn into this thing where, like, Sherlock and John Watson were running around London in this, like, thwarting the not Watson and not Sherlock. That's not what it is. That's not, there are no, like, multiple parallel universes or anything.
Okay.
It's just not Sherlock, not Watson, no John Watson, and no Sherlock Holmes.
That's a very confusing sentence out of context.
There were no parallel universes. That's as simple as it gets.
We kind of mentioned, I mentioned Legendary Cracow in a previous episode.
Sort
it's a collection of Polish folktales, and it's fine, I guess.
I would like to read it at some point.
Would you really?
I think so.
Okay. It's short enough that, it's nothing.
But it's not Katherine Addison.
It sure is not!
Okay, next one.
Ooh, Stealing Thunder.
Bodyminds Reimagined.
I think you win this one.
Do I really?
With Stealing Thunder?
Oh.
Because this is you.
Right. Oh my god, I just completely blanked.
We both read Bodyminds. That's the confusion. But no, Stealing Thunder.
You haven't read Stealing Thunder yet,
I haven't read, no. I'm thinking about bringing those to Sirens. But I also have library books. I can't decide.
I mean, if you're gonna bring a book to Sirens, bring...
Right?
Yeah.
But library... But yeah. Anyway, so this is the battle going on in my head for the next 2 days, but...
Or, I bet they'll have it there. You could just
I know you're just gonna trick me into just buying them. But it'd be so dumb to do, and I could, like, read them first and make sure that...
Okay. Alright.
I know. So, Stealing Thunder by Alina Boyden, we've talked about that before. Smack wins this one.
Yeah. So the main character is a trans girl who is born the heir to this empire, and her father is really awful. And so she runs away, transitions, lives with a bunch of other, the term is Hajira.
Sure.
It's an actual Indian type of person who is a trans woman.
Okay.
Then she meets the prince of the kingdom that she ran away to, and they fall in love, and they're feathered dragons, and it's great.
So you win, but we'll talk about... I mean, Bodyminds Reimagined was very good.
Yes.
It's just nonfiction, and...
It's academic, so it was, like, I found the introduction to be the hardest part to get through.
Yes.
It took me 2 or 3 times to, like, actually read it, but, like, the chapters themselves are super interesting.
Yes. She mentioned, so one of the books she talks about is Kindred, and I definitely enjoyed reading those parts the most, because that's a book I have read. I almost wish I had read the rest, and it left me wanting to read them, but I also know, like, a lot of those are books that would be really difficult.
Yes.
I mean, Kindred itself.
Emotionally difficult.
Emotionally difficult to get through. So pin those for another day.
When you're feeling strong.
But it's about the intersections of disability, race, and gender in speculative fiction.
Black women speculative fiction.
Yeah. So very good, very well written.
Pretty short,
very academic,
too.
very short.
Not skip the intro. Stick with the intro.
Yeah, power through.
Yep.
And then she brings up at least 2 of Octavia Butler's. Parable of the Sower, I think, comes up.
Yeah, Parable.
And then Kindred.
Yep. I don't know why my throat is so...
It's okay. Been there. All the wind blowing around. It's Santa Ana time, Southern California. Woo!
Favorite time of life. Oh. The Bookish Life of Nina Hill.
The Winter Queen. That's your Hans Christian Andersen?
It sure is. I had an hour-long audiobook, and that was it.
Is this like the Snow Queen? Like Elsa? Okay.
It's not Elsa and...
It's not that one.
I mean, like, it's the one they supposedly based it on, but, like, they're super different.
Okay.
It would be better to say it was inspired by.
Right. I know sometimes it's referred to as, like, the Snow Queen, so...
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, this will be an interesting one, then, I think, maybe?
I mean, it's...
To fight about.
Yes. Tell me about the Bookish Life of Nina Hill first.
So, the Bookish Life of Nina Hill is a contemporary, like, rom-com, kind of, about a presumably introverted woman who...
Presumably?
Well, for someone who is as introverted as she professes to be, she sure has a very busy, rich social life, in my opinion. I don't know if I'm just more introverted than she is, but, like, she has trivia nights, like, once a week with her group of friends. She has a book club every Wednesday for
God.
Because she works at a bookstore.
Yeah, but that's like a lot of social stuff.
Exactly. Right? So I was like, how introvert are you
I
really?
have one Skype call every week.
But so her whole thing is she has a very structured, planned life. So each, like, set of chapters is prefaced by this cute, like, bullet journal, like, entry in the book. And that's fun. Yeah. So it has, like, what's planned out for her week and what she has a cat and, like, what she has to do for her cat. And then this huge, and she has, like, this crush on, sort of, like, enemies to lovers crush on this, like, I mean, enemies, because they're trivia, like,
quote unquote. There were air
different,
quotes there.
Yeah, air quotes. Enemies to lovers, because he's on a different trivia team, so they're, like, trivia rivals.
So they're rivals to...
Not, like, more rivals.
Okay.
And they both, you know, have this, like, askance flirting thing going on, but then, like, but she, you know, has this whole structured life, and then finds out of nowhere, so she just has her mom, is, like, the only family she's aware of. And then out of nowhere, apparently her birth father dies and included her in his will. Oh. So this family she had no idea she had. She's never had this conversation with her mother. Her mother doesn't like talking about this at all. For, like, no particular reason. She's just not that kind of mom. Mm-hmm. Her mom's, like, a world-traveling journalist, so just, like, isn't around very much. Had her because she just decided she wanted a daughter, and then, like, during her jet-setting life, and, like, made it work. Like, they don't have an estranged relationship or anything, but it's a very formal? Kind of emotionally distant relationship, but not, like, cold or, but it's just not particularly warm or close. And so...
I'm sensing a gregarious family.
Yes. So this very, this family has a lot of it's very weirdly structured because he was a bit of a philanderer, like, he had his first wife. I forget, like, the exact dynamics, but there was, like, a wife who died early on. He slept with Nina's mom.
And then
at
he
one
went off
point.
And created this other family.
And then, like, has 2 other wives.
Whoa!
Like, from when he was very young to when he, like, died, it's, like, he's gone through 3 wives, so, like, weird ages, like, she's the niece of someone younger than her. It's, like, that kind of weird dynamics going on. It's a lot of people to keep straight. It's funny because one of her nephews that she inherits, who's her age, is, like, a anthropologist or something, is just fascinated with family histories, and he's the one who meets her first, and he's, like, super friendly and nice, and they, like, have coffee together, and he, like, writes down this, like, family tree so she can see how it all pans out.
Does the family tree show up on the
it does. Both, like, his quick sketched version, and then, like the very neat, tidy version that she makes after the fact. Which is very handy to flip back through. There's, like, an aunt there who's just has a lot of attitude and is obnoxious and doesn't think Nina's real, thinks she's just in there for the money.
Is there any money?
Oh, yeah, he, like, died super. So there was this whole, like... And Nina's like, I don't care. I don't want to be part of this. I could have lived happily the rest of my life not knowing any of you. But, like... And then there's, like, some mixed... But it's mostly, like... It's weird because none of us knew about you, and you didn't know about us, and we don't know how we feel about you. Right. And then, so there's, like, some people who are, like, instantly, like, on board, like Peter, who's just, like, this is fascinating, great, I love it. And then there's some people who are a little bit more lukewarm, like, the son of the wife who was cheated on to produce her is, like,
understandably a little less.
But then, like, they have a dinner and like, end up getting along, like, surprisingly well, so that all works out fine. And then there's the aunt who hates everything about this. There's, like, a 10-year-old in the mix who just, like, you know, is a 10-year-old. Right. It's just, like, whatever. And then she says something about how she's not allowed to have a TBR pile more than 6 books. And I laughed.
A 10-year-old?
Yeah.
What a stupid rule.
They describe her, like, library of books.
That's pretty nice.
So there were some things, like, I really enjoyed. It was fun. It was, you know, contemporary, lighthearted.
You read that in Hawaii, right?
Mm-hmm, that was my Hawaii read.
Beach read.
At one point, though, she has, like, while she's dating Tom, the love interest, has kind of, like, an anxiety attack about, like, all this stuff that's interrupted her routines, and all these people all of a sudden have all these expectations of her. and she's dealing with all this stuff, and there's one night where he, like, takes her home, like, has to be taken out of this weird, stressful family situation, and, like, him and Peter have a weird moment where, like, they both are like, I'll take her home. No, I'll take her home. Like, calm down, guys. And she's like, I don't give a crap, just someone take me home right now. And so Tom ends up bringing her home, and then is like, what do you mean, is trying to take care of her, and she has to be like, I'm having an anxiety attack. I need to be alone right now.
You need to go.
You need to go.
Oh, boy.
And that is interpreted by everyone as them breaking up. Like, there's a weird,
What?
it's a weird, like, somehow everyone makes the leap from point A to point B, like, in the next few days, like, they don't talk much, because he's giving her space.
Right.
And then she reaches out, like, the next day, or, like, 2 days later, and is like, okay, ready to, like...
Does he think they broke up?
Yes! So this is what makes me mad.
What?
He basically completely ices her out after that.
Oh, fantastic.
Doesn't respond to any of her messages.
That's fun.
And then her friends are like, oh, so you broke up with him? And she was like, I guess. And is also like, yes, I broke up with... But, like...
That's not how that works.
Yeah. So that really...
I mean, not that I have a whole lot of experience with
No, me
romantic
neither.
relationships, but, like, that's not
how it should work, at least.
Yeah.
So...
That's not how communicating adults handle that.
Exactly. So that... And then they don't really resolve that until, like, the very last minute.
Ugh.
So I don't love the romantic subplot, but luckily...
But it's not really... It's more about the family,
It
right?
ended up being more about the family and the vibes. And that was
The book
fun and
vibes.
nice, yeah. So, yeah, so that was The Bookish Life of Nina Hill.
That doesn't sound too bad.
Mm-mm.
Okay. Next one?
Oh, well, who won?
I think you did. Oh, wait. The
Winter Queen.
Oh, I didn't even
Yeah,
go.
you didn't...
The Winter Queen. There's a spot on the bingo sheet for audiobook, and I had an hour-long audiobook.
Oh, right, this was your really quick...
Because I like audiobooks, but I can't be doing anything else that requires my attention while I'm listening to them, which means driving, or I can't even do it on an airplane. I can't stay focused. Like,
Plus, airplanes are so loud.
Yeah,
I've
that's
tried to do that before, and I end up having to, like, turn it up so loud that...
yeah. Anyway, so I just happened to have an hour-long audiobook that satisfied the spot, and I'd never read the Winter Queen.
Yeah, I never have either.
And, like, it's been made such a big deal of since
Sure.
Frozen came out. But it was
And you haven't watched those, right?
completely... I've technically seen Frozen, but, like, at a party,
Oh, right,
and
yeah,
it was loud, and...
One day we'll have a cozy little fireplace
When
night.
it gets cold in
Yeah.
December,
Yeah.
we'll turn on the fireplace down here. Okay.
Okay.
Done! So it was completely different from Frozen. Just totally unrelated. But it starts with, I mean, it's a fairy tale. And so there are these very Christian overtones, frankly. Like, everything ends up working out for the main character because she is good and kind.
Sure.
And innocent and naive and all that good stuff. But it starts off with this weird aside where it talks about this evil mirror that was made by a goblin or something. And I might be butchering this because it has been multiple months. But, like, there's this evil mirror that amplifies everything that is ugly or bad or distrustful or just every negative aspect ever. You look in it, you see all the parts of yourself that you hate, and then the goblin takes it up into the air for some reason. And anyway, the mirror falls from this incredible height and shatters, and all of its little...
Oh, that's right. This sounds very familiar.
Yeah, all of the pieces of the mirror scattered out into the world and ended up lodged in people's, like, faces and hearts and, like, stomachs, and it ruins their life, basically.
Yeah.
And everything associated with wherever it landed in their body, like, if it landed in their stomach, then all the food they eat just tastes awful and they hate it and they die from starvation. And if it lands in your heart, then you become this horrible person. And so it lands in the eye of this little boy named Kai. And he goes from being this perfect little playmate for... It's not Greta, but it's like...
It's not Elsa.
Nope, not Elsa. I don't know. The main girl. And so, like, prior to this, they'd been, like, besties, and they lived across, like, on the second floor of these two apartment buildings with, like, a little drawbridge across them or whatever, and they look at the flowers in the boxes that their grandmothers put out, and like they look at the snow and they hang out and they're buddies, they're kids. And so this shard of mirror gets in Kai's eye, and suddenly he's like, you're dumb and stupid and young, and I want to go play with the boys. And ends up, there's this game that the boys play where they lash their sleds to the back of a carriage or whatever, and then they get pulled along. Like, people do that with skateboards still.
Yeah.
But Kai ends up lashing his to the back of the carriage of this evil Winter Queen.
Right.
Like, the anti-Aslan.
I've definitely read at least some variation of this, because it's ringing very many bells.
And he can't get off, and she takes him off into the wilderness, and then, I mean, basically gives him a Turkish delight, and, like, takes him to her castle or whatever. And then Greta?
Let's call her Greta.
We're calling her Greta. Goes off into the wilderness to find her friend Kai. She runs away from home. She's gonna bring Kai home.
Good for her.
And basically she has all these adventures, and being good and kind and innocent and young is what gets her out of them.
Okay.
People take pity on her because she's so wonderful.
Sure.
And she eventually finds Kai and releases him from the mirror shard because she's so good and kind. And then they go home and everything's fine.
Okay.
That's about it.
Okay.
It's a fairy tale.
It's a fairy tale.
I don't even really want to call it a fairy tale because it's such a Christian fairy tale.
Sure.
But, like,
So which would you rather read?
Honestly, Tom sounds bad enough that I'd read The Winter Queen again.
And his is quicker. I'm trying to think what I would do. I mean, I really like fairy tales. I think they're interesting. And Tom was irritating, but he also was, like, a relatively minor part of the...
You know what else I liked, though? Like, my parents used to read me fairy tales. And it was really nice to listen to it as an audiobook. It was very, like...
Okay, we'll do Winter Queen. I'll say Winter Queen one on that one. Sorry, Nina Hill.
Are we, though?
You're really kicking my butt in this game.
Oh, shit. What's yours?
The Nature of Witches by...
Rachel Hawkins?
Rachel Hawkins?
Rachel Griffin.
Rachel Griffin.
Rachel Hawkins is someone else.
Okay.
Night of the Dragon by Julia Theodora.
Well, you read these both. We talked about Night of the Dragon.
We did talk about Night of the
Dragon.
Dragon.
That's the third one. The third Shadow of the Fox
And
book.
I'm just going to give you this one.
Yes!
I don't want to spoil the Nature of Witches
I was
because
going to say, is there anything... Yeah, I have it, so you can't spoil it, but... Quick summary?
It's another magical academic school, and the main character has, like, all the witches control the natural stuff and the weather and whatever, and...
Not the nature of witches.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And the main character has all 4 seasons powers, but, like, everyone else, like, they are at the height of their power during their season, and she just, like, her personality sort of shifts.
Okay.
And it's, like, a really interesting premise, but the first half was, Second half is better.
Okay.
So, stick with it.
Okay.
What's yours?
Remote Control by, you said...
Nnedi Okorafor.
Nnedi Okorafor.
The Demon in the Wood. Lee Bardugo.
Ooh. That's the only part of that trilogy I liked.
This is the Darkling, right?
Oh, yeah, you haven't read...
I've read all of them but The Demon in the Wood.
Did I end up giving you...
Yes.
Okay, so you have it, you just haven't read it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Remote Control was sort of a weird book.
Okay. In a good way or a bad way?
It was just...
You usually like weird stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like, so it wasn't... It was just weird. And the ending was sort of, not a trick ending, but things shifted really fast, and then it ended, and you're like, holy shit. But it's this girl who walks from town to town, and she has this inner radioactive glow that she couldn't always control, but by the time the narrative starts, like, she has mostly figured out how to control it, but, like, it kills people around her. Oops. So she walks from town to town, and at first we don't know why, but she's chasing down on foot, because if she gets in an automobile, it dies.
Oh.
She's chasing down what is basically the source of her power.
Okay.
And it is...
Any automobile? I wonder if, like... I'm thinking of, like, hydrogen-powered vehicles.
Oh, I have no idea.
They're corn fuel-powered ethanol.
They're in Nigeria.
Okay.
So, who knows?
Right.
And so she's, like, 10 or 12, and her family's all dead.
Sad.
Because she accidentally killed her entire town.
Sad.
Yep. And she goes from town to town, and she walks to the fanciest house and says, I want to be let in. I'm hungry. Please feed me. I need new clothes. And then just, like... and then sometimes, like, the family will bring in the kids, so she has someone to talk to. And the adults are freaked the fuck out because, like, this weird... They call her the daughter of death. Because she just keeps going to these various towns and people always die around her. And so they give her whatever she wants.
Sweet.
It's such a weird book. And it's her following this little, like, radioactive acorn. I mean, it's not but, like, it basically is a radioactive acorn. Or, like, a shea tree seed. Like shea butter.
Oh, okay.
I think that's what it is.
Okay.
And then it's, like, it turns out to be extraterrestrial, but we don't know, like, much more about it. It's a weird book.
Okay.
And there's a lot of, like, accidental death where she feels really bad about it, and sometimes it's not accidental and she doesn't feel bad about it. It's a weird book, but it's, like, a short little, it's like a novella.
Right.
It's very weird. But what was yours again?
The Demon in the Wood by Leigh Bardugo. It's a short story that is the only time during the entire... It's not even part of the trilogy, technically, of
like
the Shadow and Bone
Shadow,
trilogy.
okay.
It's one of the side stories. There's, like, The Tailor, which is about from Genya's point of view.
Right.
And then there's Demon in the Woods, which is, like, a Darkling prequel. It's the only time during the entire Shadow and Bone experience that I've felt any sympathy for... the Darkling. And if that had been how his character was introduced, like, if that had been, like, the prologue, if that had been the prologue of the entire trilogy, that would have put a very different spin on, honestly, the entire experience for me. Yes.
I need to read this.
I, like, as you know, like, didn't love my Shadow and Bone experience. But The Demon in the Wood, I actually did enjoy.
That's
weirdly. So it's a short story from when he's a teenager, and he and his mom are going from village to village, and they pretty much last for as long as no one realizes that they are Grisha. Because they're up in the north where, like, the prejudice against Grisha is, like,
really
mob.
Oh, right, like Fjerdan.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they last as long as he keeps his powers into. He's a kid,
right?
So it pretty much lasts for as long as he.
Is it because they're Grisha, or is it because, like, he's?
No, it's because they're specific. Like any.
Because, like, his is, like, super special because he controls darkness.
Yes.
And his mother
does,
too,
it's because
right?
he's an amplifier. That's the whole thing.
He's an amplifier?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
So they make a big deal out of it in Shadow and Bone for 2 seconds, and then it, like, never comes up again. He's a human amplifier. Which is why she spent so much time with his mom, because I think she might be too.
Right. But, like, that's how he got her, like, sunlight power to show up when no one else could. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
And that's, like, the only time it's relevant in the whole trilogy. So that's why. So the whole thing is, if any of the other Grisha, all the Grisha are kind of on the DL because they're so far up north. But if any of the other Grisha find out that he's an amplifier, it's like, oh, murder him and then keep his bones basically.
Yeah. Which sucks when it's a teenage kid.
Yep. So the whole thing is him trying to keep the amplifier thing on the DL, but he can either only control it so much, or, like, it's one of those things where they're trying to stay isolated, and he's a kid and he just wants to make friends kind of thing. And he ends up defending this one, this weak Grisha girl from a more powerful Grisha bully.
Oh, no.
And in the course of events, she finds out, I don't remember if it's, like, by accident or if he just confides in her.
Doesn't she end up, like, blackmailing him or something?
No, she ends up, like,
Future Gabi here. Spoilers for The Demon in the Wood last from about here to the 51-minute and 15-second mark. So if you do not want your experience of this little prequel to the Shadow and Bone trilogy to be ruined for you, now is your chance to fast forward.
Tell me I need to know!
She ends up trying to kill him, and
What?
She's a water thing. So she was like, "Oh, let's like meet me at this pool in the middle of the night. We'll like hang out and be best friends and whatever." And while he's in the pool, she ices the thing over and tries to murder him.
What?
And then I think he at the last, like, it's interesting because the story starts with the village freaking out because they found her dead body, and they're like, who killed, like, how did this happen? And I don't remember.
And he's the prime suspect,
obviously. Well, no, he ended up hurting himself too to make it look like they were both attacked.
Oh shit!
It's like I said, it's like the best part of that trilogy. It's actually really good. So it starts like that, and you're like, oh god, what happened? And then you get this like incredible backstory where like she's trying to murder him, and then like the other Grisha boy shows up and is like, no, I want the amplifier, and then they end up trying to fight over him, and then he uses his darkling powers and basically kills them, and then hurts himself badly enough to like
differ
suspicion. And then he's like, oh, it was, and then they end up diverting blame to like the nearest village over. It's like, oh, they're after the Grisha. And then the village basically turns into a mob and goes to slaughter the whole neighboring town.
Oh my god!
It's like the best part of that entire trilogy.
Oh my god. That's wild.
Yeah.
Okay, you win.
So
Oh my god.
yeah.
Six of Crows.
Shuri. We have talked at length about Six of Crows.
You can just
we
have
actually love
it.
that. I'm Shuri, The Search for Black Panther's also by
Nettie
Okorafor.
It was good.
It was good.
It would have been better if I had read any other. I mean, like, it's technically like volume 1 of some Shuri adventure, but like there's so much that comes up from earlier adventures that I
side Marvel stuff, and if I were more familiar with the graphic novel verse, I think I'd be more like Iron Man shows up, and he's like probably my least favorite of the movie characters.
He wasn't so bad
like,
in that one. He was
he wasn't bad in it, but like of the Marvel characters who showed up,
but like
I probably would have been more excited about anyone else.
Another Wakandan ends up in space with her and Rocket Raccoon and
Groot,
and it was
fun.
like it was just weird.
It was
and Storm.
Oh yeah, Storm was there for
T'Challa.
Oh yeah,
yeah. It's
about
so
that.
weird. I don't know.
So yes, I wasn't familiar enough with a lot of like the side backstory stuff, but I'm just like, is this stuff that was established in other volumes, or is this stuff we're just establishing right now?
Some of it was definitely established earlier volumes. Like Shuri had like access to the ancestors or something.
Oh yeah, that stuff was
interesting. But I know that was like an earlier volume or something.
So
except it was volume 1. I don't know.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Technically standalone.
Coming into the
like,
middle of graphic novel experience, or
that's what's so hard about like Superman or
superheroes in general.
Okay.
Gods and monsters. That's part of which one of the Serpent and Dove trilogy?
It's the last one. Arusha and the Tree of Wishes.
Ooh, by Rashani Chakshi.
Yes.
And we've talked about both of those in the podcast, so I don't know that we need to go into too much.
Which would you pick?
I mean, I haven't read.
Oh, you haven't read that one. And I haven't read...
You could, I mean, same vibes as the first book.
Yeah.
So if you were gonna be confronted with...
Gods and Monsters is a really good trilogy capper.
Okay.
And you know how I said, like, most of the trilogy are, like, really well done tropes?
Yes.
There's one where, like, the love interest purposefully loses his memory in order to, like, fuel a spell.
You started, like, spoiling this, and I was like, shut up!
It was so good! It was so good! And it's not like...
Okay, well, I don't feel that powerfully about Arusha and the Tree of Wishes.
I am sort of appalled that I feel so powerfully, but, like, I loved it.
Okay.
It was such a good trilogy ending.
Okay. Arusha is, like, middle of a 5-book
quintet,
and it's delightful. Like, all the Arusha books are a delight. I've talked about some of my, like, qualms when it comes to the writing before, but so I wouldn't say, loved it, go read it, but... in general.
I loved it. I need you to read Serpent and Dove so we can talk about it.
Okay.
I want your perspective on Serpent and Dove.
Well, now that we're done with all of our summer
I
and
know.
Siren stuff, unless Sirens whips out like an incredible theme for next year.
For every Sirens theme, I feel like it's been, like in retrospect, like it's very obvious, but leading up to the reveal, I never have any idea what it is.
We're bad detectives.
like in 2019, they did Heroes, and I was like, what could they possibly do after this? And they chose villains.
Next year will be Morally Gray.
Okay.
The Resurrectionist of Caligo.
Ooh, The Heist.
By...
The Resurrectionist is by Wendy Trimbley and Alicia Zaloga.
Okay.
The Heist. Janet Ivanovich.
Oh, you probably win this one. The Heist is very fun when, like, it's like, it's kind of like White Collar, that TV show.
Yeah.
If the FBI agent were a woman and it was a typical het romance, too.
Oh, that sounds fun.
It is fun. It's by Janet Ivanovich and Lee Goldberg. So it was I think that's both of our dual writer ones. Yep. Breasts come up an annoying amount.
Really?
For what it is.
That's weird.
But it's like a fun cast of characters. Like, it's the main two, and then, like, you know, they enlist all these heist
people.
Crew.
Okay.
And they all, and like, so the setup is that he's this con man she's been after forever, and like, he's finally on his way to trial, and like breaks out on his way to trial, and she's like, I'm gonna get that son of a bitch! I didn't go through all this just to have him escape. But then it turns out the FBI orchestrated his escape.
What?
So that he could work for them to catch bigger criminals, like in White Collar.
Yeah.
That's
so almost exactly like White Collar.
So then they end up being partners, and they go after these bigger fish, these like rich.
Is it like the beginning of a series, or
yeah,
is that
yeah?
Okay.
So they're fun. We listened to the audiobooks when I was working for her law firm on like the way to and from work. So it's like
you worked for Janet Ivanovich?
No.
I was
for
like,
my mom's
for your mom.
law firm.
Okay. I was like, how is this the first time hearing about this?
No.
You worked at a law firm?
Like as her admin.
No, yeah, but like, two, Janet Ivanovich has a law firm? I was very confused for a moment.
My mom's law firm. So there's that, like, fun, like, nostalgic.
Yeah.
So it was fun. They're fun to listen to with my mom. And it's, like, fun, heisty.
There's
always fun. Yeah. So, and the dynamic's cute, because she's, like, hate this dude, but also so attractive.
Those are fun.
And her dad is hilarious. He's like this special forces whatever.
Oh my god.
So whenever like she gets into a really tight spot and just needs someone to show up with like rocket launchers for them both to use, or like they need some grenades to throw at the situation, he shows up with an arsenal and they both start throwing grenades at the situation. So it's like things like that are just delightful.
That sounds pretty amazing, frankly.
And pretty much my only complaint is how often breasts come up.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah.
So the Resurrectionist of Caligo, hopefully we're saying that correctly, but who knows? A resurrectionist is someone
the authors know.
I know, we'll have to ask them. A resurrectionist is someone who digs up dead bodies and sells them to medical schools.
That's good.
So it's sort of a second chance romance subplot. The resurrectionist used to be BFFs with this like gentlewoman girl. They had a falling out, and unbeknownst to her, his life took sort of like a really shitty turn after that.
Oops.
And then they end up reconnecting very unhappily, and then they end up becoming not BFFs again, but they reach an understanding. They discover the spark is still there, and there's a series of murders, really gruesome, great murders. And like he ends up trapped in a coffin, and there are these weird mushrooms, like not psychedelic, but like magic like magic mushrooms. And that are like being grown off of dead bodies. I really enjoyed the murder part.
You're so funny.
And like I really liked all the characters, but like the murder part was crazy.
This is a hard one.
This is a hard one.
Because neither of us have read the other, and it sounds like they're so different.
They are really different. There's some serious angst in The Resurrectionist. But
Kai?
yeah.
Okay. Next battle.
Alright.
The Book of the Unnamed Midwife. By Meg Ellison, right?
Yes. Shuri by Nettie
Okay.
Okorafor. Well,
Well, I'd rather read Shuri.
I will say the Book of the Unnamed Midwife was really, really well written.
Okay, which was a better reading experience for you overall? If I gave you the both again, which would you read?
Shuri. Alright,
Okay.
what's next?
I don't know, what's next?
Oh, you already picked one?
The Beast Player by Naoko Uehashi.
Cricket Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. Well,
That brings us to the halfway mark.
and now you're winning, right?
No, I think now we're even. You should have 6, I should have 6, yeah?
Because we had a tie.
Oh, I see. Yes, because I have 1 6, you 1 5. Yep, so I'm winning at the halfway mark. 6 versus 5 after a very rough start. I definitely thought you'd be way ahead of me for this.
I think the halfway mark was a little harder than the start.
Yeah. So, if you want to see how this game turns out,
I'm gonna beat her. I'm gonna.
Tune in next time. Until then, here's hoping.
You win your next trivia night? Your significant other doesn't ice you out?
Yeah, when you have an anxiety attack. Until next time, here's hoping you win the halfway mark at bingo.
Here's hoping it looks like you're gonna win bingo.
This has been another episode of Infinite TBR. You can find us on our Twitter at Infinite TBR.
And we are individually on Twitter as @WhatSmackSaid and @Gabalodon, which is like Megalodon, but Gab in the front of it. And you can find all our show notes at infinitetbr.com. If you have book recommendations for us or questions you want answered during the podcast, feel free to email us at itbrshelf@gmail.com.